Every new school year comes with forms, portals, devices, permissions, logins, and school-issued technology. Parents are often asked to approve access before they fully understand what that access includes. Two of the biggest places to slow down are school forms and Chromebooks. Parents are not careless. They are overwhelmed. We are juggling school supplies, schedules, sports, dance, emails, apps, and please sign this by Friday. But when we rush, we may approve things that we never meant to approve.
Access often begins with permission that you need to give. A signature, a checkbox, a login, or a school-issued device that can open the door to a child's image, data, communications, locations, and online activity. Protection starts when you, the parent, ask, who has access and why?
And as we're learning, back to school is not just a calendar reset, it's an access reset. So today, we are diving into everything you need to know as a parent before you send your kids back to school. So one of the things that we have noticed is that school forms are not just a piece of paper anymore.
No, it's not.
They are permission.
They are.
So what we are going to discuss is what kind of form should parents read carefully. And I think this is something that, looking back as a mom, I did not pay attention to, and I had no idea what was actually being put out there. So looking at it now, media releases. If your kid is, say, on the dance team or is in choir, whenever a photo is taken of your child, not just the yearbook, but at a game, at an event, you have to sign over permission to have your
Right, to
child's
have that
photo out on the internet. Tech agreements, surveys. Oh, surveys. That's a big one.
Yes.
Counseling forms. Moms, this is where I'm going to ask you to please read the fine print. If there's anything that we've seen in the world of grooming, the counselors are a very big problem with certain things. Not all counselors, but as a whole. And there is language that is in these forms that you have a right to understand.
That's right.
Health forms. Health is very broad these days. Make sure you read those. Field trips. Who's going? Who has access to your child on a field trip? All those things should be in the form that you are signing consent to. Transportation, your buses, they're going to games and sports. Student data, very important. And then third-party platforms. So why do you think parents are uncomfortable asking questions about forms?
Well, I'll use myself as an example. So I have a 9, 8, and then an almost 5-year-old, and I've had to sign a litany of forms already, for signing them up for school. And there's always a deadline tied to it. And when you're a mom and you have children at home and you're juggling being a mother, and you have your own administrative things to take care of at home, and then you have the additional school forms that is on top of it, you just want to check that box off to say, I did this, I did this, I did this. But to be honest with you, I didn't even read all of the forms that was sent to me.
No.
I just made the big decisions. Do I want my kids in photos? I chose yes, I want my kids in photos. Well, partly because I trust the school where my kids go, right? However, there have been instances like field trips to where I say no on that form. I don't want that. I don't want my child who is going to be present. And it's always in the fine print of it. And I think we're at a place in life where we need to know what is opt-in,
Yes.
what is opt-out, especially when it comes to like sex education with forms, because that is in there. That is in your administration forms.
CSE.
When it comes to who can counsel your child, how are they going to counsel your child? Is it going to be on a specific model like DEI? Is it going to be on a life model? What is the structure that they're using? And I think we feel uncomfortable because we don't want to be we don't want to ruffle feathers at the school.
Combative.
We don't want to cause our children to be treated differently because of us.
That's right.
But I do think that in a normal conflict resolution neutral place, you can address those questions with the school from neutrality to say, I really honestly would like to understand what are in these forms. What am I signing for this gym form you sent me? You know, what is the school stance on sex ed? Are you an opt-in or an opt-out school? What are my options?
And I'll tell you what's really interesting. If you do ask questions, you will be very surprised at what the school doesn't know, because this is coming from a district level.
Correct.
And so a lot of times the staff, the administration doesn't even understand. They're like, because this just happened.
Right.
Oh,
We don't know.
I'm not quite sure. And then
Right.
I get a call from the vice principal. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, because even she didn't know. And it was a release regarding a movie. And so I think it's important to understand that you're not doing this to be combative. You are doing this because you have a right. You have a right to understand what it is that they are asking of you, and then what you are
very
putting, the
important.
position you are putting your child in.
And you know, and I know, like, it's a hassle, right? It can be a serious hassle for moms, but if you're a parent, do not ever think that you don't have the right to do it. And even if it is a little bit uncomfortable for you, I would rather you ask the question and get the answer to what you're looking for than not even ask at all and find yourself in a situation to where you wish you would have asked.
That's right. And I think that, clarity is not conflict, it's responsibility.
It's a responsibility, 100%.
So
It
now we're going to
absolutely is.
talk a little bit about what is a media release and data and personal information. I think it's one of those
Slippery
topics right
slope.
now that data, like there's, your data is a very, that comes with a high price, but
Sure
that
does.
is your children's data. So we are now going to talk about what exactly does that look like in a public school. So one thing I think is really important about our children's faces being out there is that should be something that we take seriously and not casually, not
Yeah, we
just
have to.
allowing it to, because, it used to be yearbooks. And even with my older daughters, a couple of years ago, many years ago, but we didn't have social media. And so now you are literally opening a new can of worms, if you will, with the digital age, because those are public. They are not private.
Right. And they go on like a
accounts.
school's Facebook page or a school's Instagram platform.
Instagram. And as somebody, or as people who work in trafficking and grooming and everything with online exploitation,
Yep.
predators know exactly where to go to find what it is that they want, and that's going to be children.
Yeah.
So
and
they
if we
are
didn't
gonna
have
go.
CSAM, it wouldn't be an issue, but unfortunately we do.
We do.
And we have to think about that.
We
and I think
absolutely do.
I think this is an issue that not only parents need to look at, but I think really schools should assess this. I think a parent giving permission, like myself, to say, yes, do I want my child to have a yearbook at the end of the year? Yes, I do. I want her to have the memories. I want her to have memories in her class of the things that they did. However, I do not want her on a public platform such as Instagram with what she's doing in her classroom, because I do not want her image to fall in the hands of a predator.
That's right.
You know? And I think schools should start really thinking about separating that out, to say, would you specifically agree for us to use your child in online marketing? Because that's what it is. You're using children in online marketing for Instagram and Facebook and the school website, or is this strictly, for a yearbook? Because Summer, you've got kids that are in custody battles.
Yeah.
And you have kids who have special needs. And you have children in various situations who might not, need their photo publicized at all, but the parents might still say, yes, I want that child to have a yearbook. So I think this is an area that we need to grow into.
Yeah, it's
a
very
growing
gray.
pain. It's a growing pain for schools. I think we need to grow into that and separate that. And there are already schools that do separate those things out.
They do, some.
Some do.
Some do. And if you're wondering if your school is one of those, you can go directly to your ISD website and then go under forms, for the most part, or parent, and then look specific to media or to photo. There's different names for it. Do a little Google, research, or use a little
Or
AI
ask your
bot.
school,
Or
send an
call
email.
your school and
Yeah,
ask.
or email the school district and say, look, I want my child to have this access, but not X, Y, and Z. And that's, again, responsibility on your part. And on my part, as a mother, to make sure I protect my child.
And one of the things that you can do, and when you are asking the question, is specifically ask them, who is going to have access to this image, who can see this, and where will it be public? And if that is anything from more than just a yearbook, then I would say that's the time to say, can I opt out of that?
That's right. And this makes me think of something else. I would also go so far as to ask, who is controlling that data set?
Exactly.
Is it internally with the school? Is this a third party that is being hired outside of the school, a social media company? Who is the data and the information being given to? I would like to know that, because all in all, that intellectual property of all of the children in the school's images will live with that entity, right?
Yeah.
And so I would want to know, if I'm signing an agreement with the school, then I would expect it to live with the school. I would not expect it to be with a third party, an outside party. So, and that's a transparency thing that I think schools need to be transparent about that, if they are using third parties. And if they do, I would probably say it's a no-go for me.
Absolutely. Well, and I think because just recently there has been some concerns with regard to the third-party entity that was used for school pictures.
That's right.
And what that, who actually had access to those photos and what was being done with it once the photos were purchased, put in the yearbook, and whose hands does it go into? So I do think that, again, it takes a little bit of time to find this out, but I think these are the most important things to think about over school supplies and backpacks and
yes, because
what
you
color
can go buy another box of crayon,
shoes.
but I tell you what you can't do is, if a third party owns the intellectual property of your child in that photo, and something goes wrong, if it's used in CSAM or anything like that, or any kind of an exploitive manner, and they own it and they rightfully own that, you will have a very difficult time legally, protecting your child from that. So it's critically important to understand what agreement has been set in place, who owns it, who can use it, and where does it live in the data world? Who's going to bank that?
That's right. And again, this is not to instill any type of fear, but we just want to make sure that you are prepared, because I do believe that it's very important that parents have the right to know exactly what their child's photo and information is being used for and to whom.
Yes, and knowledge is power, right, Summer?
Absolutely.
Knowledge is power,
Most
and
important
if
thing.
we can educate ourselves, we can better protect our own children and our families, ultimately.
Chromebooks may give students access to search engines, websites, email, YouTube, shared documents, chats, learning platforms, browser extensions, and app links. Even when the device is school issued, parents need to know what is enabled, what is blocked, and what is monitored. A Chromebook may look like homework, but it can also be a doorway into the internet. Parents need to know what comes home, what works after school hours, and what access exists on your home Wi-Fi.
Digital access can become hidden access. If a child can search, message, share, upload, comment, or connect, parents need visibility. Do not assume that a school-related automatically means that it is risk-free to your child. And this brings me to a very important question, Summer.
Yes.
What should parents actually ask about Chromebooks?
Great question, and an important one. First of all, what is enabled? What is blocked? Who monitors the data, the information on these Chromebooks? And what works after school hours or on home Wi-Fi? So I have learned recently that the Chromebooks are typically on different VPNs. And
Right.
so when they are at school, they have access to more things than when they are at home,
Right.
which is very deceiving. So it looks like if you're a parent, you take your child's Chromebook and you're looking through it, oh, well, they can't access, XYZ sites. But when they are at school, it could be a totally different ballgame. So I think it is very, very important to ask that question is what is accessible
Yeah.
when they are here versus when they bring that home.
I think that's a very important question to ask and to understand.
I didn't even
who
think
is
about
the
it till
back door?
recently.
Who is the company? Who is the software company that is providing the backdoor, access, for them at school, which is very different.
It
At
is
my house, for instance,
very
we have Bark and Covenant Eyes,
Yep.
for instance, at my home, but schools do not have that,
They do
right?
not.
But I also think this leans into having that conversation with your child to say if you do see something at school on your Chromebook that mommy and daddy don't allow, or that is not something that we would say yes to, then please do come and tell me, because often our children are the ones that brings information to us where we can't see, or they can be our eyes where we're not visible. Right?
Well, I'll tell you this, being on the PTA, there was a mom that she knows who I work for and what I do, and I had a conversation about something that happened this school year at one of the elementary schools, and one of the fifth graders was supposed to just be doing their work, and somehow they were all watching pornography. And they accessed it through a YouTube channel that for some reason the filter allowed it to get through,
Right.
and it became quite a big deal. And I think it should be a big deal because, again, kids are savvy. They know how to
more
work
than
these
us.
things.
My kids know more than me
And
when it
so
comes to technology.
They were
that's just the
able
way it is.
they were able to watch some things that were and the teacher had no idea that it had happened. And quite frankly, I mean, they're busy doing their things, and all of a sudden you've got, kids
Yep.
just over there
And-
laughing, and
I
it
don't-
became a big deal.
I don't think that parents can ultimately be the gate stop for tech.
Right.
It can't. I mean, app companies should be held responsible on their end for what they are allowing through. And if there's shadow apps operating, I can recall in Tennessee there was a huge issue with the Gale school system where pornography got through as well. And shadow app companies were able to get through and do nudity advertisements to children at school. And that is a very big issue. And so not only have the conversation with your child, but do your due diligence and ask, at least know what software company is providing that backdoor stop, for your child, for their Chromebook. And also go into the settings on the Chromebook and see what you can do as a parent. There are ample helpful videos from parents just like you and I available.
But it's different on school-issued Chromebooks. This is what I've learned. So, yes, you can do that, but you still are not going to be able to, the level of access is different because it's not a typical.
On school property, too.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so there's only certain, websites or internet browsers that they allow. However, there is a big issue right now, and I don't know if it has gone into a lawsuit. I know I sent it to you with Google.
I saw that, yes.
Yes, that is a big deal because of this very situation is that, a lot of times these school districts are putting, the liability back on Google and on the Chromebook itself and not, the IT department. So,
Or the software companies that are actually creating the software.
The software for it,
and
yes.
don't have correct firewalls,
Yeah.
to protect kids. Which, again, it should come back to those companies being held responsible, not just one company like Google or Apple.
Yeah.
As they are in a lawsuit as well because of apps.
They sure
So
are.
it's good for you just to know where your kids are getting access when it comes to Chromebooks and how and just to know that it's different from being at your home to school, and to look into who the software company is and have the conversation with your child to say, if you see something that we don't allow, I really need you to come and tell me
That's
so
right.
that I can address that with the school.
Yeah, and that leads to our next point that we're going to talk about, what parents need to ask before you even accept that Chromebook. So I am not a tech expert by any means. As you said just a minute ago, I think our kids probably know more than we do. But I do think it's important that we ask better questions. So let's just kind of go over, before you accept the Chromebook, these are the things that you need to ask. What websites are blocked? Can my child access YouTube? Can my child email or message others? Can students share documents or chat inside school platforms? What happens after school hours? Does filtering work on home Wi-Fi? Who monitors activity? Can parents receive reports? I think this is a really big one. And there's a couple in here that I don't know that parents have thought about. And it's something that as a mom, I hadn't really thought about until I heard of a story. But I think email and messaging. So our children have emails through the school. And if there is anything that we have seen over the last several years is that there are a lot of teachers that have had inappropriate conversations with students. Yep. And a lot of that is coming through the access of email. Also, shared documents. Who would have thought that we would have to be concerned about
children sharing documents?
A Word document. But there is a comment and a chat filter and feature within those documents, and they can go back and forth, and it is completely under the radar of most of us.
Well, I come back to the basics of Chromebook. Why does my child need a Chromebook? What grade are they in? Does a first grader really need a Chromebook? Does a second grader?
As of 2020, they sure do.
And my children did as well. Now, my children go to a digital-free campus by my choice.
Amazing.
To not have that,
yeah,
to have that.
That's awesome.
And I can monitor training on, typing skills and, how to work with a MacBook, or with a PC at home. I don't necessarily want a school to teach my child that because I'm greatly concerned about the safety parameters around these things. So I think if you have a high schooler who really needs a Chromebook and they have to be able to do research papers on historical documentation, and I completely understand that. But I would beg the question in elementary school: does your child really need a Chromebook? Do they really need, or that grade, do they really need that Chromebook? And if they don't, I want you to know that it's okay for you to say it's no. It's okay for you to deny them bringing that Chromebook home, that you don't want them to have it. And you would not be the only parent to do that. There are other parents like myself too that don't want, digital access for my kids. And that is you being a responsible parent and wanting to make sure that, you protect your child. If you do choose to have a Chromebook for your child, there's nothing wrong with that. I just think there's going to be a heavier weight on your shoulders to make sure that you exactly know, are they commenting, are they in Word? Certainly check the emails that are going back and forth. And I'll tell you why this is important. We worked on a law in Texas where this very thing was the crux, where there was inappropriate behavior between teachers and students, and it became a very, very, very big deal.
Yes, it did.
Because schools hold a certain amount of sovereign and qualified immunity to where parents do not have the right to adequately prosecute a teacher if they should do something wrong. And I want to make sure that your kids are never in a situation like that. Mm-hmm. So if they have the Chromebook, I would say monitor. If you do have the option to opt out of having that Chromebook, especially in elementary, I would say opt out.
Yes, I agree. I absolutely agree. And I think one more important thing is just to make sure that you ask the school. Again, very important. The IT department should absolutely know this, but the administration should. Is there messaging?
Right.
Who is monitoring email access? Mm-hmm. Who can actually email students? Is that just filtered within the district itself, the school itself, or can outside entities be emailing your child? And then
that's a great question.
Can I monitor that as a parent?
Which
you should have
I'm always going to come back to parental rights.
I mean, you should be able
100% you should be able to monitor
yes.
and always see what your children have access to.
And how easy is it to delete messages?
Yes.
Because that's another problem, is that it's very easy to delete and to hide, but as we know, nothing is hidden. So it's just a matter of asking those questions, bringing it to their attention, and then making sure that you feel comfortable with the answers that they have been given. Before signing forms or accepting a Chromebook, parents can pause and ask, What am I giving permission for? Who gets access to my child's image, data, or information? What device access is being allowed? What can my child search, watch, message, or even share? What can I opt out of? Who do I contact with my concerns? You do not have to sign everything immediately. You can pause. You can ask for clarification. You can say, I need to read all of this first.
Informed parents are protective parents. You really are a protective parent if you are informed. A safe school partnership includes transparency, accountability, and parent engagement. We want you to be involved with your child. The goal is not to act from fear. The goal is to give you wisdom so that you will know what is going on. What are some of the form device agreements that parents should review this week, Summer?
Well, considering that everyone is going back to school and our inboxes are full of teacher notices and different things from the school, I would say the most important is to review the Chromebook agreement or any school-issued device agreement, especially with regard to internet filtering, monitoring, email, any messaging systems, and then app access, and of course, data collection. For those who want to have a downloadable copy of that, there will be a link at the end of this that I think is very important. It will take you right to the parent community website, and you can download a checklist so you don't forget, and so that you feel confident and comfortable knowing that you are going through each form with the right intention of understanding what it is that you are giving to your school.
And also not to be fearful when you ask these questions. Remember, you're asking this because you love your child and you want to protect your child. So if you should go to a school and say, I would like to understand all of this and I want some clarification, do it in a calm manner. Do it with a neutral voice. If you don't feel you can do it in person, send an email and present your concern in a neutral way to the school, and you will get an answer back. It'll either be, this is what it is, or we don't know what it is and we need to find out. And at least it'll give you clarity then as to where to go from next. But do ask the questions. It is your right as a parent to ask any question. Remember, God gave you the authority to raise your child.
Amen.
He gave you the parental right to raise your child, not a school. And you always need to know what your children are being given access to. And you have the right as a parent to say yes or no to that.
And I would also say that there's a lot of power when you are not afraid of the schools. And I know that it can seem like it is a big deal, but I will tell you, as a parent that has had some fun with my school districts and the boards, I have been very respected for being a vigilant mom who does not care what people think about me. Those teachers, that administration ultimately works for you. And
That's right.
You have every right to ask, to question, to even go through and say, I want to observe, I want to know more about certain teachers. Again, we are giving access. We are giving our children to these schools, and we have every right to know exactly who we are giving them to. And that includes forms. That includes the internet. So my challenge for you as you are prepping for back to school, amongst all the other things you have to do, is to review one access form on your school's website or your ISD's website and check one Chromebook setting this week and see what you come up with. Here at the JBM Parent Community, it is very important for us to make sure that parents have power of knowledge. As Alanka said earlier, knowledge is power. And as a parent, I want to embolden you and empower you to ask the questions that you may have been afraid to ask before. This entire episode is just to get you to think, what haven't I asked before? What do I have a right to know? And what access am I ultimately allowing into my child's life? If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to reach out to us here at JBM. We are here for you. We are here to equip you as a parent and to strengthen your family and to protect your child.